Hey, what's up, guys? We have got lots to talk about because we've just seen that Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny's trailer has officially dropped. This jumper felt appropriate. NASA, because we're going, looks like, to 1969, around the time of the moon landings. We think, because there's lots to digest here, lots going on, can't really put my finger on where and when we're going. But God, does it look exciting. Dial of Destiny. It was rumored a couple of weeks ago, I saw online that Dial of Destiny was going to be the title, but I'm not vibing it massively. I think it could, I've seen tons of suggested titles over time. One of my favorites ever was Indiana Jones and the City of Gods. Why that wasn't a thing, I would love that to have been a thing. It wasn't a thing. The Dial of Destiny ultimately suggests that there's going to be some kind of MacGuffin that is going to be able to turn back time, but it does change destiny. That's exactly what it says on the tin there. We saw a few kind of nods to it in the trailer itself, and I'm trying to put my finger on exactly when this is set as well, as I mentioned, because we kind of go back and forth between different time periods, which I think is exactly what this trailer is trying to do, trying to confuse us, trying to throw us off the scent of when we're going to actually be seeing Indy, whether it be de-aged Indy, which looked amazing, by the way, with that bag reveal off his head. I was like, whoa. We've seen a lot of, kind of reveals before of like de-aging. We've seen like Skywalker in the Mandalorian series and other iterations across different things, particularly from like Disney and Marvel and the Marvel universe. But Harrison looked genuinely a lot younger. I mean, there was that scene we saw as well on the parade where his horse rides up and you see there's like a clearly very CGI heavy Indy on horseback. However, this is 7 months before the film comes out. It doesn't come out till June 30th next year. So we know there's plenty of time to render, change things up. But no one's really talking about that because we know that can be done. If they can do this with Indy and de-age him like that, when he's sat there in that room, then you know on horseback they can do something pretty special too. And I think we're going to see a bunch of it in the movie. I don't think it's going to rely heavily on that de-aging process. I think to do that might not, I think we're going to see a lot more 80-year-old Harrison Ford than we are going to see younger. But again, this is just speculation. Early on in the trailer, we see the likes of, Indy traveling all over, being underwater in the scuba diving scene we saw there, which I thought it felt very Pirates of the Caribbean-esque. However, there was also this vibe for me of like the Well of Souls when we saw that kind of snake out of the mouth of that mummy in the back of the Well of Souls in the hidden area. We now see this kind of giant fish coming out of the skeleton underwater. I immediately thought of the Well of Souls there, real nice nod to previous things happening in the series. And we kind of saw those throughout as well. Obviously, the nostalgia is definitely there in this trailer. We saw Salah there as well. So he's digging in the wrong place. Love it. Bad dates. Great lines. I want to see more of those. Perhaps not. Not quite, doesn't kind of hit as much, but I'm sure we'll see in the movie. But Salah, obviously, looking his age, John Rhys Davies, a lot older now, but we love that. But the nostalgia is definitely there with characters, but also set pieces, like I mentioned with the Well of Souls, kind of like the underwater scene there. Also, sort of giant boulder with Phoebe Waller-Bridge and Harrison Ford as well. Kind of that lovely edit of kind of the boulder falling through and suddenly like all hell breaking loose in an explosion. The boulders are being part of Raiders. I think we're going to see a lot of kind of like comparisons or kind of little anecdotes from different movies that are kind of almost kind of Easter eggs to find in the Dial of Destiny as well. I don't think we're going to see too much from King of the Crystal Skull because no one really cares about that. Sorry, there are some people that do, but the most of us, there's only 3 indie movies, let's be honest. I think that's going to happen a little bit here and there, but we've seen as well in the trailer that there's the likes of Mads Mikkelsen, who plays what we think is rumored to be Tote from Raiders as well. A lot of comparisons to Raiders here, I think, because of the Nazi. Obviously, there was, in the Last Crusade, the kind of the Nazi heritage of like the villains in the movie. We're going to see there seems to be kind of like Indy going back in time. The Russians didn't really hit as much, although prevalent today, obviously, with everything going on in the world. However, I think the Nazis are going to be a lot more a focal part of the movie. I think in going back to Indy in that kind of time period around Raiders looks very much like where we're going to be going. And hence the Dial of Destiny, if you can go anywhere in time, then maybe that's where he goes. I don't know. We'll have to find out. But again, with these nods, I think about there was a moment in the trailer as well where Toby Jones and Indy looked like they were in the kind of the cockpit of like a fighter plane, but it had massive Millennium Falcon vibes. Very Star Wars. You go into some kind of like, hyperspace / time rip tear. I don't know what it is. But again, it feels like Star Wars. It feels like Indiana Jones. It feels like Harrison Ford. Everything feels very much like his movie. And we saw him, when we were talking at D23, how passionate he was about this film, saying how much it means to him, because a lot of it is a legacy. It's a legacy. It's him handing over the torch or the baton, whatever that might be, in this film, whether it be to Phoebe Waller-Bridge, a different character, or maybe that's it. There is nothing else after this. This is the end of Indiana Jones as we know it. He's mentioned it many times. I think as well, one of the biggest factors in this, even watching the trailer, is that the grit of the 80s, the way that Raiders was shot, even Last Crusade being, I think it was 89 as well, Last Crusade, they had this air of, old Hollywood about them. The fact that they couldn't, special effects were a bit naff. They weren't great. And that was kind of the charm of the movies a little bit here. That's why the 80s banged so much as a time period for movies in general, because CGI wasn't quite there. And they were kind of using it to a degree, but a lot of it was still relying on, animatronics or kind of, using on props, which is what is so nice about, those older movies. I think that's what really threw us off in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Forget the kind of alien motif there, the extraterrestrial thing, which is completely out there, literally. But for this, it does feel very 2020s Hollywood. Like it's filmed beautifully. The set pieces look lovely. The parade as well, with the kind of like the American flags donned everywhere, like confetti in the air. Visually, it looks absolutely stunning. And, the idea that Harrison Ford, 1969, this is going to be set, 40 years, give or take, from like the Raiders. So he is older. We do wonder what Phoebe Waller-Bridge's character is going to be in this, obviously as goddaughter, but how much of the story she's going to be. Tote as well, if that is who Mads Mikkelsen is playing, you wonder why we're seeing him, and if, the chain of events around the Ark of the Covenant didn't happen in the first movie because destiny was changed somehow. Maybe destiny has changed in a way that, you kind of look at like Wolfenstein, kind of what the idea of like what the Third Reich did in fact win the war, and the aftermath of that, because whether it be because of the Ark of the Covenant or other world events happened, destiny was changed, and that is why Indy's captured. Tote is around. He looks de-aged as well, Mads Mikkelsen, in this, so maybe he's part of the older timeline, and his face didn't melt off. The Raiders march as well, the music when it comes in, obviously sends goosebumps head to toe. I do really appreciate the fact that obviously Harrison, they're embracing the fact that he is older. He's in his 80s when this comes out. When he shot it in his 70s. So the fact that the music was a bit slower, like he's kind of getting up from like, 10 years spent kind of like on the sofa watching old movies, like in his armchair, and suddenly just getting up very slowly back into action. I really like that touch. Obviously, James Mangan as well is coming off the back of loads of great movies recently. Directed this with the guidance of Spielberg and Lucas, but I'm glad they handed over the reins to a different director. I think it's exciting for the series, the fact that if you capture the essence of Indiana Jones, trailers sometimes do kind of give a false impression and we think, oh, it's going to be this, and actually it turned out to be that. This, I don't get the same feel. I get from everything that I saw in the trailer, obviously it was edited, spectacularly well, because we're all absolutely buzzing about off the back of it here. And we went into this thinking, oh no, he's older. Is it going to be a thing that we have to kind of embrace it because it is what is Indiana Jones, but actually it shouldn't have happened. I don't get that at all from this. Harrison looks agile, nimble. He looks ready. I mean, I love the whip at the end. The nod to all the kind of everyone kind of like pointing their guns at him. Again, nostalgia, throwing back to Raiders of the Lost Ark once again. He brought a pistol to a sword fight, and the same thing happens now, but it's like he brought his whip to a gunfight, and I love that kind of that humor that that's Phoebe Waller-Bridge alongside the writers managed to kind of instill a lot of the humor which lies at the heart of Indiana Jones, particularly the Last Crusade as well. Definitely not Temple of Doom. I think what made Last Crusade such a successful film as well is you have the father-son combination. You've got Godfather and Goddaughter. And I think that's a good dynamic. It's not as serious as Mutt was. Well, are you my son? Are you not my son? That's pretty close to home. It's goddaughter. It's a bit detached, but it's still family. And I think that's what's really important as well. I can't quite determine what, I presume it's the Dial of Destiny is where this can be found, but it seems like the statues, effigies feel kind of Greek or Roman in some way. We saw that kind of like shields and spears, and it feels very, it feels very Greek. And I think that's one kind of area in history that is surrounded by a bit of mystique, is that kind of Greek mythology. And maybe that is where they're focusing attentions now to find this relic, because it does have, it's new for the series, hasn't been done before. And it's also kind of, it adds a new layer to the kind of expanse of what Indy has touched on from a kind of historic standpoint, I guess. Time travel is always for me one that something that I love, but when it's a beloved character like Indy, You don't know how that's going to go. The de-aging looked great. I'm happy with that. And I think that if that is what is going to be consistent throughout the movie, then we're in for a ride, and I'm totally willing to embrace it. I hope it focuses more on him at his age, because I think it absolutely has the right to. You know, we don't need to go back in time to enjoy Indiana Jones. We're very happy with the way it is right now. I want to see this kind of legacy, this series, this character, the history that started back in 1981. You know, my dad now and I talk about how he went to the movies and saw this Raiders when he didn't know much about it, and saw the movie, and it blew him away. And it's been a huge part, you know, of all of our lives ever since. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny comes out in June 30th, 2023. Let me know in the comments below if you're excited for the movie. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the trailer. Thanks for watching the video. I'm excited for it. Lots of questions. But everything is looking, as it stands, full of fortune and glory. Take care. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye for now.